Howdy, y'all, and welcome back. 20 round magazines. So, I'm going to stick this in the beginners playlist, and let's assume you have just purchased your first AR. I am, of course, going to recommend you go out and get like a minimum of 5, preferably 10 standard capacity magazines. That's 30 round magazines. I like PMags. Do your research, whatever, but just get PMags. And like I said, minimum 5, preferably 10. But there's a lot to be said for 20 round magazines. And I've been running these almost exclusively this year. With one exception, I did a training that was a pretty high round count, and I went ahead and ran 30 rounders. But almost every other time I've been shooting AR this year, it's been using 20 round magazines. Partly because I built this, and shooting off of a bipod, the 20 round gives you a nice little bit of clearance to be able to negotiate up and down without running into the ground. Whereas with a 30 rounder, now this is with the legs collapsed in, right? Now my magazine is too low and it forces me to run the legs out real tall. That may not be an optimum solution depending on the way the ground that you are on and depending on where the target is. If I need to bring my muzzle up, right now I'm out of room. So, and it kind of forces your shoulder to be up kind of high, and it's weird. So shooting off of a bipod, and you say, but I don't have a bipod. You don't have a bipod yet. So something to think about. But also at my local FUD range, they have blocks that you shoot off of, and I bring my own sandbag, to put the stock on in the rear. But with a 30 round magazine, it forces me to turn the block kind of upright, and then to get the target to line up, I end up bringing my butt up off of the bench. So then I'm in a completely unstable position, and it's weird. With the 20 rounders, I can lay the block long ways, rest the handguard on the block on a sandbag, right? And I have plenty of clearance because it's just shorter. It's just way, way easier. There's also probably something to be said for, say, in a home defense type of setup, which this is not, but let's pretend, that it just doesn't hang down quite as much, a little bit less of a snag hazard. And maybe you could argue, heaven forbid you ever end up in front of a jury, it might look a little less threatening than a big, scary, high-capacity magazine. Just a thought. I'm not saying, it's just a thought that it might appear. And I'm of the opinion that if I can't get the job done in 20 rounds, it was probably a situation that I just wasn't going to be able to handle. So, as far as home defense goes, I live in a pretty safe neighborhood, and actually my AR is not my primary go-to in a bump in the night type of situation. I do have one sort of at the ready, though. So, Black Friday was last week, and I went a little nutty and finally popped for a bundle of 10 20-round PMags to go with some very special ammo. And I actually have no intention of shooting this ammo. This is for the what if, the rainy day stash that will just sit in a go bag and be there for hopefully when I never need it. But I wanted to have magazines that are easy to identify as being different than my regular zombie apocalypse stash, which are 30 round magazines. These are 77 grain, super not affordable ammo, but incredibly accurate out of this build. And so I actually had a client tip me a Bass Pro Shops gift card, and so I went nutty and dropped 2 bills on super fancy ammo that I would otherwise never buy. And then I wanted some magazines to put that ammo in, right? Because having a bunch of ammo sitting around for what if. In boxes doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So yes, you can store ammo in magazines for long-term storage. What wears out magazines is the spring going up and down. If you load them up and leave it compressed, they will be fine. This has been debated to death. If you don't believe me, go do some searches here on YouTube. It's out there. So get those standard capacity magazines first, and then do yourself a big favor and pick up at least one 20-round AR magazine. Not a bad idea to have maybe 2 or 3. They're just so handy in a lot of situations, especially, like I said, zeroing or shooting at a local, range where you have tables, benches, right? And might possibly be a good idea for a home defense setup. So just a couple of ideas to throw out there. If you're brand new to all this stuff, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot to learn, and we're never done learning it. But just a little pro tip from your Uncle Will. And that's all I got for this one. Until next time, be easy, y'all.